Hey guys, welcome back to Pep Talks. I'm your host, Lexi Cardoza, and today I am here with two extremely powerful, amazing, and brave friends of mine, Daisy Glover and Rhys O'Brien. Thank you guys so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, well, the only way to start Pep Talks is by having a pep quiz. Are you guys ready?
Of course. Yes.
Okay, here we go. Favorite color?
Pink.
Blue.
Favorite way to start the day?
Eggs.
Kombucha.
A movie title that describes your life?
She's the man.
High School Musical.
Okay, any pet peeves?
Chewing with your mouth open.
Actually the same.
Same, okay. Any favorite smells?
Gas. Is that weird?
No, not at all.
All right.
Like pizza.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, and lastly, my favorite question, what is one thing that you absolutely love about yourself?
I think I have a really open heart.
Lovely.
I feel like I'm very caring.
Beautiful, amazing. Okay, well, welcome to my outdoor living room. I'm so excited to be here. It's such a beautiful day in Malibu. We have some amazing friends up there who are so excited to hear what we have to say. And so October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And so today we're here to really shed light on something that's often kind of left in the dark and not really talked about. And so we're here to share our truths, talk about the relationship red flags. And so Rhys, would you mind can you share your experience with us?
So I'll just start from the top. So when I was 15 and a half, I started dating this guy in high school, and I wasn't allowed to date until I was 16. And so first red flag, he talked me into doing something I didn't want to do, start dating him, and I wasn't 16 yet. And then we dated until, we were on and off in a relationship until May this year, so it was a long time. I dated other people. We would take breaks, and I would try to date other people, and no one really knew that I was still talking to him and seeing him in the background, because he would always kind of manipulate me into going to see him or going to hang out with him or spend my whole summer with him when I was back for college or whatever. And so there were a lot of incidences where I had to call the police, and I got a restraining order, took the restraining order away. It's just a disaster. So that's the summary.
Okay, and Daisy?
Also in high school, but very different story. So I met this guy when I was pretty young, when I was 13, and we became really close. And it was cute, we'd hold hands. We were 13. And then we were talking for a bit, and he kind of cut me off, and I was okay, we're young, and we reconnected when we were sort of 15, 16, and we ended up becoming best friends. And we were close for a long time. I was his best friend, and he was liked my friends, and I was I really liked him. I was so we ultimately ended up dating, and he always sort of would rely on me, oh, you're my best friend, can you help me, I'm really struggling, I'm really depressed, I have family issues with my mom and stuff. And I was of course, I'm here for you, I'm your best friend, you can rely on me, I can help you, I can help you, I was convinced that I could fix him.
Yeah.
So we were dating, and it was all good, and we'd spend a lot of time together, and I was well, we're really close, that makes sense. I was at boarding school, so we lived really close, obviously. And it was all good, and we were spending a lot of time together, and it's there were small things that I didn't realize that he would say or do that added up. So it was oh, what are you wearing today? I'd send him a picture, and he'd oh, that's quite revealing. And I'm it's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's not a V-cut, it's a t-shirt. And I'm okay, maybe he's just a bit worried,
yeah,
that's fine, I understand, if he's worried about it, I'll be considerate. And so it kind of getting worse and worse, and it got to the point where I couldn't even wear jeans that were cropped at the bottom, to here,
yeah,
because he would be that's showing too much, and I'd have to wear long sleeves even in the summer. I couldn't go sunbathing with my friends. He wouldn't let me talk to my friends. He would text me every sort of literally 2 minutes, and if I didn't respond, he would say, oh, like I'm feeling really depressed, like I'm gonna go hurt myself. And that was really hard for me because he was my best friend. So I was like, I love him, I care about him, I'm gonna help him. And yeah, sometimes he would call me whilst I was in class and say, I've run off into the park or the forest, and if you don't find me in the next like 15 minutes, like I'm gonna kill myself. So, and I didn't realize what I was in. I thought, this is my best friend, I can deal with this is a bad time, like it's gonna get better. And ultimately it didn't, and I was stuck by him, and he was always had trust issues with me. And even through everything, like if I fell asleep before like 4 a.m., he had insomnia, so he had to go to the hospital because he injured himself. But ultimately I stuck with him for a year, and he was the year above me, so he graduated high school, and we were going to stay together, and he ended up cheating on me. So yeah, I ended up like, it was really confusing because I felt stuck, but I also felt like relief that it was done. So.
Well, I feel like it's so easy to really feel stuck because I personally haven't been in really an abusive relationship, but my mom was stuck in this abusive relationship for 14 years. And kind of being a child in a home where like you're living in a constant state of fear and you never know when he's gonna show up, what he's gonna do when he does show up. I remember just like, I'd lay in my bed all night and kind of just like wait for something bad to happen because you never really know what's gonna happen. And I feel like a lot of times in these relationships, when you're being manipulated or just emotionally abused, like it's just the state of fear that you're stuck in, and then you feel stuck in the relationship because it's like you said, you love this person, they're your best friend, so of course you want to support them, but also what they're doing is not okay. But then on us, we have this responsibility like, oh, we can fix them, or oh, like if you don't do this for me, I'll hurt myself. If you don't do this for me, I'll hurt myself. And then nobody wants to feel responsible for something else bad happening to somebody. And I think that's why it's so easy to get stuck in these situations for so long. And so like for you guys, like how did that just like personally affect you, like your journey and just like you as a person?
I think for me, like I said earlier, I think I have a really like open, soft heart, and I know that's what he kind of like preyed on, and I know that's the same for a lot of situations. And so I would blame myself, like I need to stop trying to fix him. I need to just let it go. Like his family life just is his family life. It's not my responsibility. But I had to say to myself, like, this isn't my fault for being a nice, caring person. It's him manipulating like a good quality in me for his benefit. And so I had to just recognize that and realize like people, even with him, of course, he took advantage of that, but even other relationships, I saw it happening in friendships and family members, and I just had to say like, okay, I need to step back. I need to stop trying to be like Mrs. Fix-It and just let people live their lives and kind of like put myself first. And so I think that made a big impact on my life because I was like choosing to be in a good place in all my relationships, like romantic or not. I like took a step back and I was like, okay, like I'm not gonna be friends with you anymore. I'm gonna whatever.
And that's like a huge lesson to learn because I feel like it usually takes a very long time to get to that point, because for me at least, like when you're in the situation, it's kind of, you're so blinded by what you're going through that it's really hard to even like see that what's going on is wrong. Like I find myself, I wasn't even personally in this relationship, but I find myself in every single other relationship that I have going forward, it's completely tainted. Like I see things through a completely different lens. I view relationships in a very different way. And I had a friend tell me one time that I was pessimistic about relationships, and I was like, dude, like I grew up in a household where love was not really at the core of it, where my parents had a terrible relationship. So when I'm seeing that, of course I'm gonna be more aware of red flags. Of course I'm gonna be a lot more like, wait, maybe not, versus somebody who just like goes in with open arms. And I feel like for us, that's really a struggle, is kind of overcoming that, because I feel like we immediately go in with these more like elevated standards. We're like so apt to like seeing red flags. And I feel like sometimes that can really get in the way. Has that gotten in the way moving forward, even friendships, relationships, or anything like that?
I think that sadly it kind of makes me more like paranoid and like anxious about people, because when I first meet people, I'm generally speaking, I'm a positive person, and I feel like he made me a very negative person, and that has affected me in the long run because it affected me whilst we were still friends and stuff. And I feel like going into like friendships, I feel like if someone mistreats me, I feel more strongly about that now than I used to. Not that I'd let people walk like on me, but like just like if someone is acting like, I feel like they don't have my best interest at heart. I'm kind of want to take a step back and distance myself, because I feel like that could become toxic, and I don't want to be around someone that could be like negative or anything like that.
And I feel like when you're like in the actual like toxic environment, it's kind of easy to just always surround yourself by toxic people, because at least for me, like that's what you're used to. Like I feel like when I was like really deep into that situation, I was just surrounded by all toxic people because that's what I knew, that's what I was used to. And so kind of moving in these relationships, that was normal. And so for me, it was like, okay, well, this is how they treat each other at home, so I guess this is maybe how I deserve to be treated, or the way that I should be treated. And I feel like it's so easy to kind of get stuck in that going on. Like it literally wasn't until like a few months ago that I finally was like, wait, like no, I deserve more than this, I'm worth more than this, and I'm no longer going to take these toxic people in my life, and if I have to get rid of it, like that's just something I have to do. But I feel like it's a long process, because I guess like how long did you guys feel like stuck kind of in this cycle of like going in and out of like bad relationships?
Well, since I was with him for so many years of my life, I was constantly in that cycle, because I would be with him and then I would try so hard to get out a little bit, try to date someone, and then I would be the toxic person in that relationship. And so that was really hard for me to be like, okay, like I'm the problem sometimes, but it was just, I was taking my hurt with him and trying so hard to move on when I wasn't ready, and then I would just fall back down the hill and be with him again. And so, but after May to now, I've like tried to date people. I've had like a different perspective, but it lasts like 2 weeks, because I'm like, nope, like you have one flaw, bye.
Yeah, that's how I am too. Like now, like every little red flag pops up, and it's like one tiny little thing, and I'm like, nope, I'm out. Like I can't do this. And it's like, but like that's just which is hard, because I feel like sometimes I'm being maybe a little too judgmental, and it's kind of difficult to like draw that line of like, okay, what is too much Lexi, and what is like, no, like that actually is like a real red flag, because sometimes it's really hard to like, I guess, determine like the difference between you're being crazy or no, you're actually being cautious and safe.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, after it ended and everything, I completely got him out of my life, and I was lucky that I could. And because I live in Singapore and he was in the UK, so it was just easy for me, and then he wasn't at my school. So, but after that, I kind of flipped my life around. I went from sort of not being able to talk to my friends or anything to hang out with my friends the whole time, and the people who stuck around were the real people. So many people left, and with dating, I was kind of scared. I was best friends with this guy for like years, like since I was little, and we had like a phase where we weren't friends, but I thought everyone says you date your best friend and it's the best, and it was the worst. Like, and I don't look back on the relationship and I don't regret it, because it actually changed me, and I did care about him, and I wouldn't have like done anything differently, but it's changed my perspective on relationships and friendships.
Definitely. Cause I feel like it's hard, because like the trust is completely gone. Like when somebody is so close to you that you love so much betrays you, it's like, how can you possibly ever, like, it's so much harder to trust another person that you barely know. Like you guys were best friends, you guys dated for so long, how do you ever like, I guess, move kind of forward into like, okay, like I don't really know you, but you could be a good person, because when you're betrayed by the one person that like you cared about the most. And I feel like for me personally, like with my dad, like once my mom was finally like out of the situation, it didn't even really go away, because I feel like in my situation, the abuse went from her to me, but like when I was actually in it, I didn't really view it as abuse. I was like, he's my dad, he needs me, like I'm going to be there for him. And it got to the point where he relied on me for everything. I would get texts like, oh Lexi, like I love you so much, like you're the only person that ever talks to me. Like one day I got a text like, I'm about to drive off the Folsom Bridge, and I spent the next 20 minutes having to talk him out of committing suicide. And it's things like this that you don't realize are abuse, but then later down the line you realize that, holy crap, like that actually affects me so much more than I know, because nobody should ever be responsible for somebody else's entire life. And for people to put that on you, it's like a huge like weight to carry around, because now we feel like, oh well, we can't leave because then they're gonna do something, and then the cycle just continues. And like, how do you like break the cycle? Like what can you do to like break it?
I think, I mean, I feel like I'm still like more paranoid, because like when I get a text, I'm like still sometimes like, oh, And it's been like years, and I'm still like, because it was constant for a year, like more than a year, because we were friends before and he was still relying on me, but I didn't see it because I didn't see it. Like, you convince yourself that they're so close to you, they would never hurt you, and they're just trying to get help. They're just trying to help themselves, and maybe they are, but they're bringing you down.
And you find empathy too with what they're going through. Like for me, at least, I justify a lot of actions. Like, oh well, he had trauma in his life, or oh he went through this, or oh he's this, and it's like, well then how can I walk away from them because they have these issues too, and I'm gonna find a way to fix them, even though we do not have the power to fix anybody else. But in those situations, like you feel so down about yourself that anything you possibly could do to like make them feel better feels good. Like if they're telling you, oh, I love you so much, or oh, like I rely on you, or oh, I don't know what I would do without you, like it feels good. Or at least for me, like it filled me. I was like, oh, yay, like I'm doing something good, but it's like, that is not healthy. But it's hard to like see that until you're like really out of it and you're like, oh my gosh, like that is not how it's supposed to be.
And I feel like I take more of a sort of outside perspective on situations, and I like to check with other people who are outside like a situation that I'm in about what they think, because people were telling me stuff and I was like, I would just defend him. Defend him. Even my parents, and I like am so close to my parents, and I would be like, no, he's just going through something, like I'm here for him, like he's my best friend, it's okay, like it's gonna get better. That's what I said every day to myself. And I mean, it didn't, but I was convinced. I really was convinced that this guy's my best friend. Like, best person, like, this is it. Like, I'm, like, young, but I really think that we're going to stay friends forever, even if we don't end up dating, and, like, you know?
And I feel like, too, because there's times when it's good, and so I feel like we really hold on to, like, oh, like, we had such a good time together, or, oh, like, he does love me, because they show that, but then it's hard when they show their other side to really be like, okay, but that's a part of it, too. Like, I know for me, like, I really like to focus on, okay, well, we had these good times together, like, let me remember the good times, like, it's going to get better. Like, even in friendships that are toxic, it's always like, oh, well, our friendship was good at this point, or oh, like they just need me, like it will be okay, but then it's just not.
I think for me, I talked to my sister about this a lot. There were such high highs and there were such low lows. Like there were times I was like calling 911 to go check on him at his house. There were times I was like not home for days because I couldn't like leave his house or something. But then there were also times where I was like so happy, and so I feel like for me it was almost like an addiction. Like I'm chasing these highs when I'm at the lows, and it was just like this cycle of like always wanting the highs, and I would just self-sabotage until we got to a good point. Like I gave him enough to be happy with me so that we could have like a good 2 hours.
And I feel like the highs were like, I feel like since the lows were so low, the highs just were so high. Even if they weren't really like anything special, it just seemed so much better because you were so stuck in that low point that like anytime you got even like a glimpse of something good, you just grasped onto that, and then that allowed you to kind of forget everything. Oh, well, all of that bad stuff happened yesterday. Yesterday, I had to call the cops. Yesterday, he almost got arrested. But you know, today he's taking me out to lunch, like everything's okay. And I feel like that's like the hardest thing, because where do you draw the line of like, he loves me, he truly does, but obviously he's going through something in his life, or there's something that happened in his life that kind of got him to this point today. But I feel like for us, it's kind of that point of like, we just don't deserve it, and like we just can't take it. But it's a lot, of course, easier said than done, because people are stuck in these relationships for years and years on end. And sometimes I feel like it's easier to stay, or safer to stay, than it is to even try to leave.
That I struggled with that a lot. I didn't feel safe leaving until May. It was a very specific situation where I had friends with me. I was in like a safe place, and I was able to like call 911, have him be taken away, and like I haven't seen him since. So, but if I had tried to do that by myself, it's just not safe. Yeah, it's like not a good situation.
And I feel like there's so much that goes into this too that's just so unhealthy, with like blaming the victim. And when a victim finally comes forward, because it's not an easy thing to do, immediately telling them, well, oh, why didn't you leave sooner? And I read this really good article in Huffington Post, and it was like 6 stories of different women who like, and there's 6 different reasons for why they didn't leave. And there was like fear, isolation, money, because these people are master manipulators, and they're able to manipulate you. Like they take you away from your family, your friends, so you're alone. So then what do? But what if they pay for everything? So now you're gonna leave and you have no money. I know for like personally in my situation, we didn't leave until it was literally rock bottom. Like my mom had nothing. She couldn't provide for us. We ended up moving into like a shelter for domestic violence, because not only could she financially not provide, but she also like just it wasn't safe anymore. And it kind of took taking that huge step and doing something like I never expected to happen to actually change it, because then after that he kind of like left us alone. Like I'm not saying things ended, because still to this day I struggle with him, but that was like the turning point to where like, okay, like we're safe for once, like the anxiety can kind of go away and we can start to move forward. And so for you guys, like how long did it like take you for you to like tell anybody about it? Like were you talking to people throughout it, or like when, like what, how did you get to the point where you like were finally open sharing it with somebody?